안녕하세요, 조호입니다. Hello, my name is Joho, and today we'll look at an overview of particle 는. This lesson is aimed at the beginner level, but I guarantee that even advanced learners will learn a thing or two. If you're very new to Korean and can't yet understand the examples presented, that's okay. You can still understand the concepts from reading the English translations. The examples you will see are used to encourage deeper thought. You don't need to memorize them or break down the grammar. You just need to get the concept. The best way to understand particle 는 is to understand its effects. Rather than trying to define this particle from the top down, we'll look at some examples and see the effects it has. Once we do this, we can build our understanding from the bottom up. So, what is particle 는? This is a question every Korean learner has asked themselves. Most beginners struggle to conceptualize the particle, and many intermediate learners don't fully understand it. For a long time, the standard approach has been to teach 는 as a topic particle. I argue that this is a misnomer, and it doesn't help Korean learners understand the particle, because what the hell is topic? Topic is a linguistic concept rather than a grammatical one. Most advanced learners don't know what topic is, and I'm willing to bet most teachers themselves don't know what topic is. If most people don't know what topic is, what's the point in having such a term? It's a term that's stuck and become the convention. I'm hoping this video will change that. Topic particle is a misnomer because topic marking is but one of three effects this particle has. In order to understand this particle, we need to understand all the effects and how they relate to each other. This Venn diagram depicts the three effects of 는. That is, 는 can be used to mark the topic of the sentence, 는 can be used to denote contrast, and 는 can be used for emphatic reasons. Before we evaluate each effect with an example, a short disclaimer. What's meant by topic, contrast, and emphasis is a matter of definition. Some linguists will argue topic means this or contrast means that. I've selected the definitions which most linguists agree upon and the ones which will help Korean learners the most. However, be aware that there are other definitions out there. Given that there's more to this particle than topic marking, Korean learners need to understand all the effects. From these effects come many different usages. So 는 as a topic marker. We'll start off with an example. 초수는 학생이다. Here, 는 is attached to 초수, and note that the sentence still means the same if it doesn't have particle 는. It still means 초수 is a student. But using particle 는 has some effect. Here it's like saying, I'm about to say something about 초수 now. Do I have your attention? Here it is. He's a student. Obviously, such a long-winded feeling isn't conveyed by particle 는, but that describes the effect in this example. Here, 는 marks what the sentence is about. The sentence is about 초수. 초수 is introduced as what the speaker wants to talk about now, and the rest of the sentence is a comment about him. With this example, we see the sentence is divided into two parts. They are called topic and comment. 초수 is the topic, and 학생이다 is the comment. The comment is made about 초수. One reason why 는 is called the topic particle is that it marks the boundary between topic and comment. If you ever wanted to know what the topic of the sentence is, then it's to do with this. Topic is an advanced concept, so I can't go into the details here, but topic is basically what the rest of the sentence is about. That's all I'll say for now. You'll learn more in UKG-004. Note that in some cases, 초수 could be contrasted with something else. However, in this example, there's no reason to think 는 is being used for its contrast effect. Now we have the contrast effect of particle 는. We'll start off with this example. Person A says, "Are you good at StarCraft?" Then person B says, "I'm not good at it." This instance of 는 is as a contrast marker only. The topic of the sentence is person B. The sentence really looks like this. 나, or I, has been omitted basically because it's redundant information. We don't need it to contribute to the sentence. Since the topic is na, particle nun is attached to chal, not for topic marking, but contrast marking. It's like saying, yeah, I'm not good at it, but you know what, I'm not half bad either. Beginner learners will ask, how do you interpret sentences like this? How do you interpret contrastive nun? It's quite difficult because nun can give contrast in many different contexts. To give another example, 1. 여행을 하고 싶다. 2. 여행을 하고는 싶다. In sentence 2, the effect of nun is to say, I want to go on holiday, but for some reason I can't. It's impossible to know what the speaker is implying without knowledge of the conversation at hand. It depends on the context. It's important to note that nun itself doesn't add the meaning, but I don't have the money. What it does is tells the person listening to infer something which is contrary to what is actually said. The listener then makes a logical assumption as to what the speaker intends to say. Nun does this by drawing the listener's attention to the I want grammatical form, such that they can't help but infer something's happening to it. And from this comes the effect of contrast. Knowing how to interpret sentences like this may seem difficult, and even for intermediate learners, it can be really puzzling to guess what the speaker means. You need to follow the whole conversation. If you're a beginner, you probably don't need to worry about it just yet. What's important today is being able to conceptualize what nun does. Now, as I said before, nun can be used for both topic marking and denoting contrast at the same time. Topic and contrast often go together, as in A1, Young is a singer, A2, as for Chosu, he's a student. Not that a conversation would go like that, but let's just use this example for simplicity. In sentence A2, Chosu is the topic of the sentence in that he is what the rest of the sentence is about, and at the same time, he is being contrasted with Yongi. This is how nun is frequently used for both topic and contrast effects. This is why some people call it a topic contrast particle. These are the two main effects of this particle, and they often go together. Some linguists argue that nun is in essence more of a contrast particle than a topic particle. They say nun is primarily a contrast marker, and the topic marking effect only arises when nun occurs in the topic position. Finally, we have the emphatic effect of nun. This particle can sometimes be used to simply give emphasis to what the speaker says, as in this example, 사실은 처음 봤을 때부터 널 좋아했어. Now, nun here isn't being used for topic marking. Honestly, or honesty, isn't what the rest of the sentence is about. Emphatic nun is the least common occurrence of nun, but it shows that nun isn't really a topic particle. Instead, nun is being used to emphasize what the speaker wants to say. The use of nun is optional. The speaker could simply say 사실, but when nun is used, it makes the sentence more emphatic and draws the listener's attention to the confession. Some linguists will say that emphatic nun is just a variant of contrastive nun. As I said in the beginning, these terms come down to definitions. Linguists are still debating how these effects relate to each other. Now, if you're a beginner learner, you can stop the video now because the next part is supplementary material. The most important thing is to realize that particle nun has three effects, and from this comes many different usages. The take-home message is that nun is not just a topic particle. We need to understand all its effects. But if you're adventurous or curious to know more, we'll talk about the fundamental purpose of this particle. So, nun's topic and contrast effects are well acknowledged and widely accepted in linguistics. But the question is, how do these effects relate to each other? How can this one particle have different effects? Linguists have been debating this for a long time and can't agree on how to define this particle. You see, linguistics isn't like maths or physics where you can do some calculations and run experiments. It doesn't give hard answers. It's a science more like psychology where ideas are evaluated and debated. It's even more difficult than psychology in that you can't exactly run experiments and draw conclusions from them. This is important to consider because learners want to know what is particle nun. But to tell the truth, we don't have a definite answer yet, because linguists can't agree on how to define this particle. They haven't been able to agree on how its effects relate to each other. Some say it's primarily a topic particle, and others say it's primarily a contrast particle. A new theory attempts to explain this particle by unifying all the particle's effects. That is, topic, contrast, and emphasis are derived effects from some ultimate function. The theory says that nun is in essence a salience particle, whereby speakers use nun to impose salience to something. You can think of salience as making one piece of information prominent such that the listener can notice it over other pieces of information. Or you can think of it like this: speakers use nun to draw the listener's attention to something. In the case of topic marking, you're drawing the listener's attention to the topic. Nun has the purpose of saying, I'm about to say something about Chosu now. Do I have your attention? In the case of denoting contrast, you're drawing the listener's attention to one thing in comparison to something else. As in, I'm not good at it, but you know what, I'm not half bad either. In the case of emphasis, you're drawing the listener's attention to emphasize something. In our confession example, bringing in the listener's attention makes the speaker's confession more emphatic. In order to give these three effects, the salience of an item needs to be raised, and the theory says nun serves this purpose. The salience theory is attractive because it explains why nun sometimes cannot be used with topics. If we have a continuing topic such as A1, Chosu is a student, A2, blah blah blah, A3, Chosu plays tennis, in this case you wouldn't use nun in A3 because Chosu hasn't left the stage, so to speak. Chosu is the topic, and yet it doesn't require nun marking. If the speaker does use nun, then it's now being used for its contrast effect. It would appear that Chosu is being contrasted with someone else. Why is it so? Because Chosu is already in the immediate awareness of the listener, and if nun were used, they would think, you want me to look at Chosu again. Chosu was already salient, and using particle nun imposes the salience again, such that the listener can't help but infer contrast. Note that if A2 was a topic shift, as in Youngie is a singer, then nun in A3 is required to mark topic. Since Youngie was on the stage, we would need to raise the salience of Chosu again, so that we know the attention is being shifted to him. The salience theory explains why nun is required for topic shifts and contrast, and why nun is inappropriate with continuing topics. But we still need to ask the question, is nun a salience particle? It would be bad science to claim that it is because the theory is relatively new and yet to be fully evaluated. Theories need to be properly considered, and it's too soon to accept the theory, and therefore it's too soon to teach nun as a salience particle. However, I believe that it is a salience particle, and that this theory best explains the three effects we've talked about today. Korean learners don't need to worry about the linguistic debate, but they do need to understand the three effects this particle has. That's what's important here, understanding the three effects and what you can do with particle nun. It's more than just a topic particle. If you'd like to know more about this particle and see many examples of how contrastive nun can be interpreted, you can check out my book. Just be aware that it's not suitable for learners who cannot yet make basic sentences. It assumes that as basic knowledge. To end this video, I'll propose a question. What should we call particle nun? What should we call it such that learners who are very new to Korean can conceptually understand it? That's an open question. I hope this video has been helpful.